Top Gear has reached unprecedented heights from when the series first kicked off in 2002. Well, 1977 actually, if you recall Jason Barlow's original vehicular program. That's almost half a century worth of motoring-based challenges, customized races, and shenanigans. The cast has literally gone to the extremes of the earth for Top Gear. Today, we'll be looking at 10 of the show's most extreme driving locations. Starting with number 10, Bolivia Death Road. Series 14 saw Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and James May take a trip across the Amazon rainforest to the Pacific Ocean in secondhand 4x4s. Notwithstanding the epic 1,600-kilometer journey through the rainforest, along an active volcano, and crossing down enormous sand dunes, the only time the motorheads were actually fearful for their life was when they had to make the 60-kilometer trip across the Andes on the Yungas Road. Aptly termed the Death Road, this 60-kilometer cycling route connects the city of La Paz and the Yungas region in Bolivia. Despite its rather ominous name, the site attracts over 25,000 tourists every year and is actually one of La Paz's most popular tourist destinations. The cast of Top Gear, however, wasn't too thrilled to have to cross through the extremely steep road. Clarkson was genuinely inches away from an untimely demise when the ground underneath him began to crumble as he passed by another car by going around it. Luckily, the cast made it through and lived to create another series. Coming up, number 9, the North Pole. The North Pole isn't particularly known for its touristy locations. The only people who venture to the extreme of the Earth are researchers looking to put their theory to the test. And Jeremy Clarkson, by all means, is a researcher. In 2007, the cast announced their plans to travel to the magnetic North Pole. Previously, no one had attempted to travel through the dangerous terrains on their own, much less for a televised segment. Clarkson and May would be traveling in a modified Toyota Helix modified for Arctic conditions by Arctic Trucks, and Hammond would travel alongside them with an American explorer, Matty McNair, via dog sled. The goal of the BBC special was to establish Clarkson's theory that modernized vehicles could actually beat traditional modes of travel at the North Pole, hence why Hammond had to travel in the dog sled. While the episode did indeed make for a fun 60 minutes on screen, Clarkson revealed that the team had spent close to 72 hours journeying via their respective vehicles. The glaring ice burst a couple of tires, and the weight of the Helix nearly broke through thin ice. Plus, Hammond had a rather unsettling encounter with a polar bear. Next up, number 8, Makgadikgadi Pan, Botswana. The 4th episode of Series 10 saw the original cast of the series travel through the Republic of Botswana, a landlocked country in southern Africa. Clarkson, Hammond, and May attempted to prove that the 1,500-pound vehicles that they'd bought in Africa were better suited than SUVs commonly used to voyage through Africa. As the trio crossed through the Makgadikgadi salt pans in Botswana, Clarkson read out the episode's briefing. Basically, he listed out an array of ways the three of them could die at any point, really setting the tone for the next 60 minutes on screen. This was perhaps the most dangerous leg of their African expedition. The trio had to cross over lion-infested, scorpion-infested, snake-infested, and honey badger-infested areas. The journey was made exceptionally difficult because their 1,500-pound vehicles kept getting stuck in what Clarkson called prehistoric gunk. Moving on, number 7, Vilcabamba, Peru. Series 3 saw the cast voyaging through the Americas. By episode 8, Patty McGinnis, Freddie Flintoff, and Chris Harris had reached Peru, a country they called Heaven on Earth. The trio quickly found a patch of hell in Peru when they had to cross through the Vilcabamba mountain range towards the Abrayanama Pass. This was one of the first roads ever built in the Americas and had an altitude of approximately 15,000 feet above sea level. That's higher than any road in all of Europe or North America. Harris put it out plain and simple. It's one of the most dangerous roads in the world. Notwithstanding the bumps and rubbly surfaces over the prehistoric trail, the trio had been making their journey in second-hand cars. While this has rarely been a problem for the cast of Top Gear, this time the road got the better of their vehicles. Harris's car was the first one to go. His Dodge Dart broke down and he had to continue the rest of the climb in the passenger seat of Patty's Oldsmobile Cutlass. Moreover, at number 6, Kazakh Steppe, Kazakhstan. After Clarkson's departure following a messy BBC scandal, Matt LeBlanc and Chris Harris took over the reins for hosting Top Gear. LeBlanc found himself in Clarkson's shoes, which meant taking a sidestep from Hollywood and venturing across difficult terrains to give motorheads the quality entertainment they deserved. His pursuit to prove that he was up for the job took him to the unforgiving terrains of the Kazakh Steppe. Starting in the city of Turkestan, LeBlanc, Harris, and Reed drove towards the Baikonur Cosmodrome, the world's largest base launch facility and home of the Russian space program. The steppe was, as Reed put it, a vast area of complete nothingness. To make matters even more complicated, the cast's vehicles had a total mileage on them to make a journey to the moon and back, an apt assessment considering that they were going to a space station after all. They made it through the steppe in one piece. But as for LeBlanc, he was quickly booted off the series after pulling in subpar ratings for the popular BBC show. Furthermore, at number 5, Delhi, India. You wouldn't expect the capital of one of the world's most vibrant countries to be on the list of the most dangerous driving locations. But here we are. The journey was made even more complicated by the fact that there were a total of 74 million vehicles in the country, nearly twice that in the entire United Kingdom. Clarkson made a fair assessment. If there are twice as many cars, the death rate would be twice as high too. He was off by a few numbers. It's actually much higher. According to statistics, 22 vehicular-related deaths are reported in India every hour. Clarkson, Hammond, and May traveled via lorries through the capital all throughout the night and found themselves navigating through daring pedestrians, high-speed vehicles, and roads that trailed off into open areas. The journey wasn't any easier in daylight. As Hammond put it, now we can see what's going to kill us. Additionally, at number 4, Lomantang, Nepal. Despite the obvious dangers across Lomantang, trucks and lorries don't take time out to stop or signal their next move. They are thus aptly known as the messengers of death. The journey across the high-altitude range would have been difficult in itself had it also not been for the trucks that sped past Patty, Freddie, and Chris. Freddie went as far as claiming that while the trio loved to joke around about scary situations, the deadly mountain path was beyond a laugh. Entering the top 3, River Nile, Africa. Clarkson and co. believed that all theories surrounding the source of the River Nile stood to be disproven. The trio traveled through Africa looking for the source of the entire Egyptian civilization, believing that they'd be the first to locate it, ahead of several hundreds of researchers who'd ventured into the desert specifically for this enduring task. May supposedly found the source in a tiny puddle. However, their scientific journey was nothing if not dangerous. From an enormous branch that smashed through Clarkson's windshield to the cast constantly having to take lengthy detours to fix their second-hand vehicles after the relentless storms made them undrivable, Top Gear's journey to find the source of the Nile was perhaps one of their most dangerous trips yet. Now for number 2, Bonneville Salt Flats, United States. Clarkson, Hammond, and May set off to drive their Cadillac CT-SV, Chevrolet Corvette ZR1, and Dodge Challenger across the U.S. They made it through Nevada and into Utah to race their cars on the Bonneville Salt Flats and compete in the Speed Week drag races. Hundreds of motorheads gathered at the Salt Flats every year to reach unprecedented speeds, breaking the speed sound barrier and to look the Grim Reaper in the eye as they lose control over their cars on one of the world's slipperiest terrains. Finally, at number 1, Ushuaia. Clarkson described his trip through Ushuaia as the most terrifying experience of his life. That's a pretty bold claim coming from the thrill seeker who thrives on terrifying life experiences. The road across Ushuaia was dangerous in itself, disappearing roads, unstable bridges, and rocky terrains that damaged their vehicles. But what made the entire ordeal even more terrifying was a misunderstanding. The cast and crew were greeted by protesters who had gathered at their hotel. They claimed that Clarkson's vehicle number plate H982FKL was a reference to the 1982 Falklands War. Negotiations led nowhere, and they were asked to leave Tierra del Fuego by the police. As they tried to leave, near the town of Toluan, an even larger group attacked their vehicle with rocks, shattering their windows. Yet a larger mob was waiting for them near the Rio Grande, but this time they decided to flee cross-country and head straight for Chile. That's a wrap. Let us know which episode of Top Gear scared you the most in the comments down below. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more. We'll see you in the next one.